Hi. So here's my cousin Gary. I thought that we would have a little conversation about just stuff and what's going on in the world. I know everybody's been putting out videos and we're living in the matrix and maybe there isn't a God because this is all a simulation and the UFOs and the fog and people getting sick and I mean right now even the government everything is just a mess.
That's right.
So I wanted to bring my cousin Gary because a lot of people that I've been seeing online are having a very tough time on what they thought they believed. And now all this other information is coming out and they're questioning whether they should go from a belief system of a God or a belief system of
Their own.
we're just in the matrix and this is all just molecules and matter and that's all there is. So, Gary, would you like to start by saying the bad part of your life, how bad it was? Because a lot of people get depressed, and when they don't know what to believe in, they're confused, or they don't know where to turn to get any answer, and sometimes they turn to alcohol to just wash their fears away and drugs
Well,
just to feel better.
Exactly, and where my early life went to was is instead of seeking God, I went to my friends and turned into alcohol and started smoking reefer and just kind of like stayed in the party life and thought that that was
The
the
best
proper
thing.
way to be. If you get down in your life, just go get high, go get a drink, get drunk, and
Kinda
everything.
forget
And
it.
just kind of feel like it washes it away. But the problem with that was not only did it just kind of like numb the situation, but it intensified it the next day when you weren't drunk or you weren't high,
Yeah.
because then you started thinking about it a lot more.
Right.
So I did that basically from high school all the way through probably till the year 2000 when the people that I worked for sold the company and the new owners put in a random drug testing for the whole company. So it made me stop. But back in 1985, right before I got married, I had a moment to myself to say, look, I just met this lady, and I'm either going to be a drunk, divorced dad and husband, ex, or I'm going to quit drinking and be a husband and a father.
Right.
So back in '85, I went ahead and just quit drinking altogether.
Okay.
So
Let me ask you before you go on, if you don't mind. When you were going through that time, what were things in your environment that kind of went downhill as you were doing that?
everything went downhill. At the age of 21, I got arrested for DUI, and I was really drunk, and because we were drinking whiskey at the time.
Oof,
We weren't
yeah.
drinking beer, we were drinking whiskey. My drink of choice back then was Lord Calvin and ginger ale. And, at back in my day, the drinking of beer and wine was 18 years old, and but we had in our small town we had friends that their parents owned a liquor store, so we were able to get our whiskey, at the age of 16, 17 years
Right.
old, and back in that day, all we had to do was ride around and drink,
Yeah.
be with our friends. We had this one place out there where we lived. Some friends of ours, it was their grandfather's place, and when after they passed away, it just kind of went to ruins. But
Yeah.
we turned that place into where we would go and light a
Party
fire,
house?
and we would just stay outside and just party all the time.
Yeah.
And it was some of those times where you'd show up, at dark and light a fire, and you're sitting there by yourself, and within 10, 15, 20 minutes, there were maybe 20 or 30 people there.
Yeah.
And this is in the middle of the week, and you still have to get up and go to school or go to work the next day. And, we're teenagers. So all that just kind of like kept stumbling and stumbling. It kept me from really finding who I was and
Right.
what I needed to do for this world.
Now, did it also interfere with you trying to find a job, trying to be independent to live on your own and pay bills?
Yeah, because up until 1985, every year when I would go to my tax guy, I would always have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, sometimes 10 different W-2 forms from where you only stay a little bit here, to stay a
Right.
month here, stay a month there, and then after I quit drinking and everything, and that's when I found the job where I ended up doing 33 years
Oh, God bless you
with
for
one
that.
company.
Wonderful.
Yep. So I worked on with a phone company, and when we first started, there weren't any drug tests or anything like that in there, so we was still smoking reefer at the time. And like I say, once they sold that company, the family sold it, that's what really changed everything around. Everybody's outlook changed because now instead of going and getting high and go to work, now you had to go to work.
Right.
And
Real
then
work.
Real work. And it changed everybody's attitude on what we should be doing.
Right.
So, and then back in 2008, my wife and I, we ended up splitting up and getting a divorce and everything. And that's when I put my life back to God right then.
Yeah.
I went back to church and got rebaptized and rededicated my life to God. And from that point forward, it was always a mountain climb up to the mountain. It wasn't staying in the valley
Right.
or going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then once I started realizing that my life is supposed to be a disciple for God and go out there and talk about Him and spread the word.
Yeah.
And I've been to several different seminars, classes, and went to this one thing. It's called Day Spring Walk to Emmaus, where it's a 72-hour thing where you go and you have no phone, you don't have a clock,
Wow.
watch. And
Yeah.
it's nothing but learning about Jesus and how He walked and what they expect of Him.
Amazing.
So now we're dedicated to Jesus every single day. You know, I wear a cross every day. We pass them out and we talk to people, and we try to spread and find out everybody that we come in contact. We try to ask them, where are you with your walk with God?
Yeah.
And that usually is one of two ways. They're either going to, it's like, no, thank you, I don't want no part of that. But the Bible says is if they don't, you just brush the dust off your feet and you go on to the next person.
Yeah.
But with that being said, you've planted a little seed in that person's thought
Yeah.
about Jesus.
That's true.
So that's what we're here to do, is we're supposed to plant that seed. And it might be, everybody has their different things that they have to do in life for Jesus to do. And some people plant that mustard seed, excuse me. Some people will water it, which
Yeah.
watering is going and actually talking about Him. But it's God's choice to make that seed grow.
Right.
And He will make that grow if you allow Him to do that. And what a lot of problem today is people are being taught how to think versus what to think.
Right. And that's a big issue.
Exactly. And that's
Very
two different
big.
situations. When somebody is every day teaching you how to think instead of what to think. Because when you start thinking of how to think, that means you're thinking about somebody else's way.
Yeah. Now, here's a question that I'd like to ask, and I'm sure hopefully everybody would agree. Nowadays, in this modern time, and I'll just say because we just turned 2025, so 2024, in that era, now that there's so much going on, like with the government and poverty, disasters, some people who may have believed, like, you know, there's a God, I'll pray to God, but so much bad has happened, and they're like, why is He letting this happen to us or to these people? And then they turn and then they go to watch the news and they see all these things that are nothing about God, or they're taking like parts of the Bible and implementing it to
But
what's
when they
going
do
on.
that, sometimes they're misinterpreting what that message is in that Bible.
Exactly.
And they're
But
doing
they're
it the wrong
lost.
way. My wife and I, just last night, we watched this thing. It's called The Shack. And it's a great movie, and it teaches you and it shows us that when we put up a fence and we say, God, why do you allow things to happen? It's not that He is allowing it to happen. It's because us humans have this one word. It's called
Choice. Very much agreed.
So
Very
when you
much agreed.
choose to do evil, right?
And
'Cause
that
just
path
like
can
with
cross good.
right, because just like with us and our family,
Yeah.
at 2020, 2012, we had an 18-year-old cousin that was murdered in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, that was
Did
a
God
very
allow that to
awful-
happen? No. That was a choice of that person that killed her. Okay?
Yeah. That was an
So-
awful time.
Exactly. So that's not God allowing it to happen. That's Satan choosing someone to do his dirty work.
And that's when people who take sort of the bad path crosses a good path, and because of their choices crosses, and sometimes like in a road you come through a fork in the road,
Yeah.
and sometimes you don't, there's no stop sign, and here comes the cars,
Yep.
and two people.
Yeah.
And-
because in our world, we have to take that path that's less traveled.
Yes.
You know?
It's very hard, though.
The more you seek Jesus, the more Satan's going to come after you because he wants you. And he wants you for his kingdom, which his kingdom is very organized. Where God's kingdom,
It's
he
free.
lets up to choice
It's free.
because we have that choice in us as being human beings to choose whether I want to take that fork or if I want to stay straight. You know, you always hear that thing, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. It's kind of like a
Left or
double-edged
right,
sword, right? Because you
Yes.
don't know which one, but you have to take the one road that's less traveled because that's what Satan is looking for. If you take the one that's well traveled, that's where he is.
Yes.
But if you take the road that's less traveled, he can't get on that road.
Yep.
Because
And I've always been, I'm sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt, but I've always believed that God helps those who help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the people that are trying to make good choices, sometimes meeting these
Yeah.
bad people or incidences that they have no control over.
right.
And all of a sudden now they're enswarmed in this, and there's evil around us.
And
So
that's because they were taught how to think versus what to think.
and they're afraid because they're like, oh, if like the judgment day came, even though I've tried to live that way, all this evil still comes in, and I've tried to make good decisions, but sometimes they've been bad decisions.
Well, here's another thing that I do as soon as I open my eyes. I already even put my foot on the floor. Patty brought this back from one of her seminars that she went to, and it's like, Jesus, I don't know where you're going today, but I'm going with you. So it's just easy to let him know that you're thinking about him your very first thought of the day.
Right.
And when I lay down at bed, whether I had a great day or if I had the worst day of my life, I still thank God for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So why would I want to learn how to think versus what to think?
Yeah.
Because when I learn what to think, then I'm thinking for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, I've tried the way without God, and it led me to drinking.
very
it
bad.
led me to smoking dope, doing coke, and it led to a divorce.
Yeah.
But then once I got back into nothing but the Word and
Yeah.
staying there, being true to it and being faithful to it, he brought my wife back to me, and we got remarried. Because she saw
And I'm so
something in
glad
me.
that you guys are
Yeah.
back together. They make a fabulous couple, let me tell you.
But he showed me where I was going wrong and what I needed to do to change it around. So when we ran into each other, and here's how, if you really want to know how God works, and this is how he worked in my life. I was an engineer for a phone company, and I was working in Georgia. And they needed some help on Hilton Head, where our home mother house was. So my boss asked me if I would go take a job on Hilton Head, in the process of still having my Savannah, Georgia jobs. So I did, and when I pulled up on the job, this is how he works, and you don't even realize it. When I pulled up and parked my Hargrave truck and got out, I looked and I saw a lady over there, and it was my ex-wife. And it was the first time we had run into each other in 3 years.
Wow.
Coincidence? I don't think so. I really
He
don't
works
think that
in
was coincidence.
mysterious ways. We've all
Exactly.
seen it, but
And-
some don't want to believe it, but he
Exactly.
does.
But we talked probably a good 30 minutes, but she saw something in me that I never had, and that was Jesus.
Yeah.
And she could tell by the way I was talking, you know. And I told her at the end of that conversation if she wanted to come home, the bridge was rebuilt. And 3 days later, she called me, and I went and picked her up and brought her home, and we got remarried back in 2011. So we don't even count that 3 years of being apart,
Right.
and we just celebrated 39 years.
Beautiful.
So, if you let Jesus work in your life, okay, no matter what denomination you are, it doesn't matter. Seek Him. And once you seek Him and find Him, get rebaptized, because that person, and a lot of people don't understand what baptism is. Baptism is when you get dunked under that water. That's the old you. And once you come out of that water, it's washed it off and it stays in that water. Then the new you is what comes out and starts that walk.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt as soon as I got rebaptized in 2008. Was I felt the old me go away and the new me come to light.
Right.
And then once I realized that I'm not driving my train anymore,
Yeah.
it's been a great path to be on.
That's great. It's so glad to hear that. But what are your thoughts on, well, for me, example, I had grown up in a Catholic school, going to the Catholic church, every Wednesday and Friday, and then Sundays with the family. My kids were baptized at the church. And then when I really needed help, with my son, who, was born with special needs, they wiped their hands. They were like, I don't know what to tell you. 2 weeks later, they call me and they're like, we haven't seen your envelope. Where's your donation? Excuse me?
Because, and see, just like with us, I was an altar boy, Catholic, got confirmed, the whole 9 yards, did all that. To me, once I was in the Catholic area or realm, not one time did I open the Bible to read it.
Yeah.
When you go to church, you read out of the missal.
Yes.
So that's interpreted by somebody sitting down and taking the Bible and putting it on paper. So how do you know they haven't
Right.
put a different something in that one sentence that you don't realize?
Agreed.
So my wife and I, back in 2008, went to a non-denominational church. And you bring your Bible to church, the pastor reads, and you can read it right there. And then he breaks it down so you can understand what's going on. So, in your instance, just like with my mom and dad, because they were Catholics up until probably maybe 10 years ago. And when they went to a non-denominational church, they realized that the Catholic Church, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, trust me, Catholics, I still have a bunch of them in my family. All I know is what my family has experienced going through the Catholic Church. And the last church that they went to, the priest got up there one Sunday morning and said, look, we have secured for our parishioners to go to these two banks and you can get two different loans, one for $3,000 or one for $5,000.
Are you kidding?
But this was above and beyond your 10% that they wanted you to tithe.
10%?
And then that's what you're supposed to tithe, 10% to the church of your earnings, because the first 10% is supposed to be to God. So they asked, well, what is this money going for? Well, the priest said that they had already had it in the workings. They wanted a statue that was going to be put out front that was going to be $250,000. So why take that $250,000 for a statue that's going to get there for the birds to sit on, when you could have taken that money and taken care of a lot of kids?
A lot of
that
needy people, yes.
Just like yourself,
Yep.
And that's the problem. They look at people, well, if you're not giving to this hand,
You're
this
not
hand's
getting
not going to get out. You're not going to get it out of this hand.
Right. And what I did was I decided to kind of have just my own personal relationship with God. I took what I knew as my religion and I made it mine. And I made it where, and I don't know if anybody else agrees, disagrees, but it's what I felt was right for me at the time. I didn't have family support, so I was on my own with two children, very young, one special needs, and it was an awful road.
Yeah.
And when the church kind of turned their back, after I've been at their school, I mean, everything, it really put a bad taste in my mouth. And I sat and I said, God, are you kidding me?
Yep.
I will tell you now, I will not go into a place or a building that inquires you to be around a group of people and you have to pay.
But where you have to realize, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
It wasn't the church.
It was the people.
It was a human being.
It was the people. But that's what,
Yeah.
where the separation kind of gets foggy.
Yeah.
Because without these people, there's no church.
You have a bad taste in your mouth still.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of
because
course.
you needed help at the time and they turned their back on you.
And I wasn't asking for a lot. It was just to help with my son's medication for the copay.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
But for over 20 years now, I've made my own relationship with God. I talk to him every day. I have the rosary by the head of my bed every night. And I have grown, and I believe he understands my situation. He understands the life that I led, and there was nowhere else to go. I had to make my own.
Right.
And so now that's what I do. And I mean, there's so many people that are lonely.
Right.
They don't know what to believe or who to go to or what's what.
Yeah. Well, at least you keep it God focused on God. Your life is still focused on God and everything. And we're supposed to be what they call fishers of men. We're supposed to go out and make people more aware of God. We're supposed to take the word to the streets.
Right.
We're supposed to disciple the streets and everything. And but when you have a bad taste of what people have done,
Yes.
it carries and it lasts a long time
Oh.
because now you're gonna, just like with you lived in Rhode Island all your life. Your husband retired. Now you're living in Georgia. So now
Loving
you
it
gotta
though, mind you.
You got to start all over with the people and the relationships out there. So now, and I understand where you are,
Right.
you know, and everything. But I praise you that you still, you know, talk to him and pray to him every day.
Every
because
day.
you have to.
Every day.
And not only that, you still talk about him to people. If I saw it the way you just quit talking about God to people, then you and I would have to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk.
Only because we're cousins.
Exactly.
We need to throw that in. He's not, I'm sorry, he's not the type that, you know, of those born-again Christians where every single person, well, here's that pamphlet.
No.
And, you know.
I will talk to you about it if I meet you.
There you go.
But yeah, and it's just to plant that little seed. That God says, plant that little mustard seed, and I will make it grow.
Yeah.
So that's why you and I haven't sat right down and said, I want you to come to church with me. You have to come. Because you're still talking to him. You still love him, and he's still in your heart.
Every day. I watch things on TV.
Yeah.
I see the bad, and I talk to him like, my God, Lord Father.
And it's not him allowing it.
I say, what are these people doing? Because they all, and if somebody could just sit and think of all the stuff that's going on in this last 4 years, I hate to say it, Democrats, you suck. I will say that this video is all opinion and entertainment purposes only. Just saying that for YouTube guidelines. It's scary, and there's so many people who just don't know what to do or who to believe.
It's because they were taught how to think instead of what to think, and I understand that there's a lot of need out there in this world, but it's not the government's job to take care of everybody. It's our responsibility to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're put on this earth to do, is take care of ourselves and spread the word of the gospel to everybody that need it.
Right.
You know, because everybody needs to hear about Jesus.
Absolutely.
You know, and then it's your decision whether you stay with him or not.
That's
you know, I heard about him. I stayed with him. Did he do great things for me? He's still doing great things for me. You know, and I will never stop seeking him, and I will never stop talking about him. And that's just my life, you know, and that's the way I feel.
And praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Because you know what? If we didn't have people like you who devote themselves, there would be so
Now, let me tell you, I still battle with getting upset. you know, and
Well,
I
it's
told him.
it's the nature of a
it's
human.
human nature.
That's it.
So here's a little thing too that we try to teach our kids at church is your words. Think of it as toothpaste. Putting it on a piece of a paper plate. Take some and squeeze it out on that paper plate. Do you think you can get that toothpaste back in that tube?
No.
There's no way. Well, that's your words. Once you say those words, you can't get them back. Someone can unhear them. There's no way to unhear somebody's words.
Right.
So that's what we use a demonstration with that toothpaste. So anytime now, and Patty and I, we just got an argument just 3 days ago, and then when we got done, I got sat there and I'm like, well, that toothpaste is all over the place, and I can't put it back in now, you know?
Yeah.
But I caught myself at the end of it, and we didn't take it
Too
to
far.
the extreme,
Exactly.
like we used to take it back in the day before.
Yeah.
So is there a change? Yes, there's change. Do I have to work on it every minute of the day?
Yes. Every step you take is a choice.
Because the harder we seek Jesus, the harder Satan comes after us.
Yep.
It's a known fact, plain and simple. What I do too is a little reminder is I always carry this around. This is a nail, and represents the nail that Jesus took for us. And I keep it in my pocket. Whenever I feel like I'm gonna down my head, like, oh man, poor, I put my hand in my pocket and I rub this nail, and it reminds me that there's great things ahead.
Right.
To don't. And
That's a great reminder.
when you start to feel like, oh, I'm no good, oh, I can't do, or I'm not this, that's not God talking to you. That's Satan talking to you.
Right.
Now, if you're sitting there and you're watching TV and you hear it just right in the back of your head, all of a sudden you hear, you're an awesome person, that's Jesus talking to you. That's not you telling you, that's Jesus talking to you. A lot of times you hear pastors say, well, have you ever heard God talk to you? Well, that's him talking to you.
Yep, that little
You just
voice
don't
inside.
realize it, you know? Because nobody's going to sit there and tell themselves they're stupid. No one's going to sit
Very
there and tell
true.
themselves that they're great,
Right, exactly. Absolutely.
right? So you have to understand when those thoughts pop in your head, who's talking to you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest key is seeking him, staying with him, stay on that path that's less traveled because you're going to go a lot further.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. There's just no way around. There's no way out of it as long as you're going to be there and be faithful, you know. And it's just been such a great blessing to my wife and I to finally understand where our life needs to be
Right.
for our relationship,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Because she's my best friend, but that doesn't. What happens with best friends? Sometimes you get in a fist fight, right?
Sometimes.
Back in our day, we used to get out there and fight on the football field, fist fight, and then go to class. You know, nowadays you just look at somebody wrong and they pull a gun on you.
Yeah, it's
You know,
terrible.
so there's your difference in the whole world right there.
Exactly.
And here's where it all changed too. Back when my boys were coming up, okay, that's when you're dissing me come into play. You're dissing me. Okay?
That favorite word that we've all heard.
Yeah, disrespect. So what they did is they thought that if I carry a gun and I shoot you, you're gonna respect me. Well, no, that's not respect. That's fear. And the
Very
only
true.
reason why they're saying yes to you is because they're scared that you're gonna shoot them.
Yep.
Respect.
Very true. We see that every day.
Is you have to give respect to someone to earn that respect back, and they don't understand that concept. Okay, they don't understand nowadays. People, and here's another thing too, and this all went away. There's no road etiquette anymore. People won't merge over so you can merge in. Okay, that's part of this whole thing too of what's in it for me.
Hence why I don't drive anymore.
Right.
Because I can't stand people on the
Right.
road.
So, and too many people now, and it's everywhere you see it. Too many people now is, what are you going to do for me so I can go do?
Selfish.
And that's not the way. You're supposed to go out there and do for others so you can get done to you. And that's the way you're supposed to live. And that's
Yeah.
respect. If you're giving people respect, to get respect back.
Exactly.
You know, people right now at my church that are in their 20s, when they ask me a question, I say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And they're like, I'm not that old. I'm like, no, I'm just giving you that respect.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
Well, can I say I thank you so much
You're so
for
welcome.
coming and joining me, and hopefully anybody that watches the video understands that there are things that your heart can believe in, not your brain,
That's
your
right.
heart.
Yeah.
There's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you could come and
Thank you.
we could make this video and
Yeah.
hopefully help some people or anybody, which would be a blessing.
And just keep your heart open. I would say keep your heart and your eyes open, and understand the difference between love and fear. Okay, because it's totally different, you know. So if you want love, you have to get away from fear. So get in the Word. At least try to read the Word. Get these new bracelets out right here. These new bracelets out, you can buy them. They're like $5 a piece. And what it does is you touch it, and it gives you a daily verse. Every single day you get a different daily verse. And 2 minutes at the most. And if you can do that every day, guess what will happen? Great things will be right there to follow. So try to do something for yourself versus someone else trying to tell you how to do it. Okay? And that's where we need to go now. You got to think for yourself. Don't take other people's thoughts.
Thank you so much for
You're
your
so
time.
welcome.
And as my cousin, I can greatly say I love you
I love you.
from the bottom of my soul and my feet.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Forever and ever.
Forever.
We love y'all.
Anybody want to leave any comments, questions, or if anybody wants to, talk, or if they need something, reach out. We'll see what we can do, and we'll do everything that we can to help.
That's right.
All right, guys. Have a good day. God bless. Drive safe. Be safe.
That's right.
All right. Bye.